There we go.
There we
Perfect.
go.
All set. Welcome. Thank you
All set.
for joining us. Thanks everyone who
Absolutely.
is listening. My name is Jacqueline Leeds. I'm the Director of Communications at the Animal Defense Partnership. And Animal Defense Partnership provides free legal counsel to now over 180 nonprofits around the U.S. doing work both domestically and globally that advocate for animals and or plant-based diet change, including Caribbean Canine Connection, who we have with us today. Allison and Kevin Driscoll established Caribbean Canine Connection in 2020. With a special fondness for mixed breed puppies and dogs of the Caribbean islands, affectionately called coconut retrievers or pup cakes. So Allison and Kevin, can you tell us a little bit more about what inspired you to start this organization?
Absolutely. So we have a fondness for the Caribbean islands, and we also have a fondness for dogs as well. And early on in our dating, we did a lot of traveling to the Caribbean, and had our honeymoon there, and went. Pretty much, it's the only place we go on vacations to the Caribbean, with a few exceptions here or there. But we also were really able to see firsthand the need down there. We experienced a lot of stray dogs, a lot of neglected dogs, a lot of starving dogs, a lot of abused dogs in the Caribbean. And we saw it more and more, and visited more islands to kind of get more insight into the difficulties down in the Caribbean in regards to the manner in which animals are treated and cared for and looked at really in the Caribbean. And we really found it's very difficult to hear, and I always tell folks this, but in the Caribbean, the mindset is a bit different, not with all folks, but with many folks down in the islands. Dogs and cats are viewed like we would view an ant. It's a nuisance. Let's step on it. Let's get rid of it. Let's just expel it,
If you don't want it in your yard, let me sprinkle some poison out, and that way the problem will be gone the next day.
Yeah,
unfortunately.
It's very unfortunate. It's hard to hear, but dogs are drowned. They are poisoned. They're ran over with cars purposely. They're thrown live. Litters of puppies are thrown in dumpsters live. It's very difficult to hear, but I think it's important for folks to hear this, to understand why it's so important to help these dogs in the Caribbean islands and islands in general, because they are treated very poorly by many, not all, because there are a lot of wonderful folks down in the Caribbean as well that are trying to help. And we've connected with so many of them, which has been really, really inspiring. And we are thankful to have connected with so many wonderful folks down in the Caribbean as well that want to help and want to facilitate change down there. But that was really our inspiration for starting Caribbean Canine Connection.
I'm curious, as someone who hasn't been to the Caribbean, are dogs also pets there as well? So I mean, are they pets there? Dogs, right? So, where's the overpopulation stemming from? Is it pet dogs that aren't being spayed or neutered, or is it just at this point there's so many stray dogs that are repopulating that there's nothing they can do about that?
Yeah, I mean, the spaying and neutering is obviously the root of the problem, and as Allison was explaining, a lot of the locals in the islands have a slightly different mindset than people. Most of the people in the States do regarding spaying and neutering. A lot of them don't do it because maybe they don't have the funds available to do so, but some of them just choose not to because they don't want to alter their dogs in some respects. So these dogs are often roaming freely, and they're not spayed and or neutered, and hence the multitude of puppy litters that tend to pop up.
Yes. I think it's like you asked, Jack, and I think it's a combination of both. A lot of dogs are stray that are not spay and neutered. Some that are kept as pets, or a lot that are kept as pets are not spay and neuters as well, spay or neutered as well. And they're also allowed to roam free. Here we keep our pups in our little yard or on the lead, and a lot of folks that own pups just let them roam free down there, and the dogs come home because they know where to eat, but in the process they impregnate and get pregnant. So that's where a lot of these litters come from, and there's just so many of them that folks just dispose of them. They're nuisances. Let's get rid of these puppies and these dogs. So that's where the root of the problem is definitely the spay and neuter, I would say, for sure. And the fact that there's so many stray dogs down there, so many, and ones that are kept as pets are a lot of times allowed to just walk and run loose.
Are there programs either through your organization or through the local shelters or maybe in partnership? Are there programs available where they would have the physical capacity to spay or neuter dogs if they had the funding? So as
Yep.
somebody viewing, so could financial support enable that to happen? Like, do they have that infrastructure set up, or would they also need to set up the infrastructure there?
Well, I'll mention
Yeah.
one in particular. Our inspiration behind starting Caribbean Canine Connection is this wonderful organization called Paw BVI from the British Virgin Islands. And they were actually, we adopted our first island pup from them, and they have a spay and neuter program down there, which is so amazing. They offer it for free once a week.
Mhm.
And it's just, we've been going to the British Virgin Islands since 2013. And in that time period, we have seen such a
Oh yeah,
difference,
absolutely.
incredible difference in the amount of stray dogs down there. And I attribute it, most of it to this program, Paw BVI. They're an inspiration. They're amazing. But it is very costly. And I know that it costs them a lot of money. And I know that they just do fundraising constantly. And every day of the week, they're doing some sort of a fundraiser where it's on a larger scale or a smaller scale. But I think a lot of the other Caribbean islands don't have those infrastructure programs in place that they're able to do that and have the resources to do it. So I think that's part of the problem in some other islands.
Yeah, some other islands have perhaps let the problem get so far out of hand that it's just so immense to even wrap your head around how to even begin to,
Yes.
spay and neuter all these dogs that are roaming freely. Certain islands are much better about it than others.
Yeah. I know, for instance, in the Bahamas, they have something called the Bark program, where they have a van go out and they'll go and go into the community, and they'll spay and neuter the animals right there. And a lot of times there aren't spots for them in the shelter or in foster homes, but at least they're going out and fixing them right there. And a lot of times you do have to release them back, into whatever community they came from, but they're getting it done, which is good. But sometimes, Kevin's absolutely right. The problem has just gotten so huge that it's hard to wrap your head around where to start. But spay and neuter is absolutely the root of everything, and I think it's the solution to a lot of it as well.
So speaking of the incredible local shelters there, Caribbean Canine Connection is a very cool model to help these dogs. Can you tell us more about your partnership with the organizations on the ground and how that works to help bring dogs out? How that works?
Sure. So, like I said, we started our connection with the British Virgin Islands with Paw BVI and the shelter down there. And then we kind of just started reaching out to other islands and saying, hey, if we can help here, let's help other places too. And what we do is we're a little bit unique in that we actually don't take ownership of the pups. We don't, have them in a facility or have them in fosters. We connect the rescues and the shelters in the Caribbean islands to rescues up here, not shelters, but rescues up here in the States. And sometimes we do direct adoptions through CCC as well. So we kind of view ourselves as the connection piece. So we connect the rescues down there to the rescues up here. And in the beginning, we actually did a lot of direct adoptions on our own. We would find, whatever pups needed a home down there. It's kind of a two-pronged thing. We find a ride for them, a lift. We call it the freedom flight. So we would do some research through social media and whatnot to say, hey, any vacationers traveling from the Bahamas or the USVI or St. Martin up to the States, and people want to volunteer. They want to take a pup with them on the plane. It's really super easy, and it doesn't cost them a thing, and it's saving a life. So we'll find a vacationer or one of our regulars, we say, which is a lot of folks have houses down there or have family down there and go back and forth quite a bit, to travel and take the puppy up here that needs a home. And then we connect with a reputable rescue up here, or like I said in the beginning, we did a lot of direct adoptions. We would vet the folks ourselves and do reference checks, and then have that particular adopter meet at the airport. And we've kind of expanded so much, though, that we have done so many adoptions, and at this point we're really trying to connect with more rescues here in the States so we can do it on a larger scale.
It was kind of one of those things where I think when we were visualizing how our organization would work, in its infancy, we kind of had ideas like we're like, hey, there's not really a connection component. There's not someone, a sort of a middleman, if you will, that's facilitating a lot of the details that are taking place in the middle here between getting this dog from, as Alison said, a rescue in a certain island to a forever home here in the States. So we kind of started to fill that little void that's sort of in the middle, and that's what sort of allowed us to work with various other islands and not just focus on one island.
Yeah. So yeah, we're definitely that we call ourselves the connection piece. We're the middleman between the rescues and shelters in the islands and wonderful rescues and adopters up here, because there's so many wonderful folks up here that want to adopt and so many wonderful rescue organizations, and there's so many dogs that need homes down in the island. So we're kind of the middleman to try to facilitate that connection.
Is there a particular region in the U.S. where you're working with rescues or fosters, or just anywhere in the U.S., or presumably people that are traveling typically come from certain places?
Sure. Yeah. So in the beginning, we're based in Connecticut. So in the beginning, it was a lot of New York, a lot of Boston. Then we started getting a lot of Philly travelers. So we have a lot of Philadelphia, a lot of New York, a lot of Boston. We actually established a wonderful partnership with an organization down in Charleston, South Carolina. That led us to establish another partnership in Charlotte, North Carolina. I have a wonderful rescue out in Denver that we work with quite often. So it's definitely a lot of New York, Northeast type areas, but also a lot of Philadelphia, a lot of East Coast, and then, like I said, I have a couple out in the Midwest too. And we're looking to expand. I'd love to expand to rescues on the West Coast as well. So we have, we have our travelers that go back and forth a lot, the Northeast, New York City, and Philadelphia area, and then like I said, a lot of Charlotte, a lot of Charleston, a lot of Denver. But I would like to expand out to the West Coast. So if anybody's out there listening in the West Coast that would like to partner with us, I would love to facilitate that connection as well.
That's super. So how many rescues or groups are you working with right now from the U.S. aspect?
I'd say probably about 10 from the U.S. right now. Yeah, so it's good. It's 10, and like I said, we connect to rescues, but we also, because we don't like to give up the opportunity that we get for a freedom flight. So there's a flight that's going somewhere and I don't have a rescue in that area, or the rescues, a lot of rescues in the U.S. are full right now. It's, they're really kind of busting at the seams, or the rescue that we usually work with can't take. A lot of times I'll just put the pup's picture out on Facebook and say, this puppy has an opportunity to take his freedom flight to blah, blah, blah city. Do we have any interested adopters? And even if the adopters are in a different state, we can still do reference checks from afar, and things of that nature. So we'll kind of vet the folks ourselves, and we've done direct adoptions that way as well.
Very cool. And I will say, if you are not watching this from Caribbean Canine Connections page, you should absolutely follow them on Instagram and Facebook for your daily dog cuteness. They just post the cutest posts.
They're cute.
Adorable puppies.
They really
are. They really are. And I have to say too, they have, and I'm not just saying this because they're my thing, they really all have the best personalities. I don't think I've ever had a dog where people are like, they have a horrible personality. They're all so loving, so caring,
very
friendly. And in my heart, I really do feel that they all know that their lives have been saved. I really, truly do. And they're island dogs are the best. They are. I think everybody that has an island dog that's listening will attest to that.
Usually once you get one, you tend to end up getting many more.
Yes, exactly.
It's there. If my home were not currently full of so many of these dogs, I would say, like, I want that dog.
They're super cute.
They're so cute. Are there size restrictions in terms of the dogs that you can fly back, since some of these people are flying at commercial flights? How do you deal with that?
Yeah, that's a huge component. So we primarily work with dogs, adult dogs, and mostly puppies, I would say, that are 20 pounds or under, because 20 pounds or under, they can fly in the cabin within, we call them a puppy pal escort, somebody that's flying from the Caribbean islands back here to the States. And, technically they're supposed to be in their carrier under the seat, but Kevin and I have done it a million times before. The pups are always on our laps. The flight attendants are holding them. They're passing them around. Hopefully nobody gets in trouble. But, that's technically, they're supposed to be under the seat, but most people that escort, they do have them out during the flight, and they just love it. It's a wonderful way. I always say it's a little, sorry, we have our puppy with her right now. Yeah. It's a wonderful way of easing the pain of leaving the islands, is traveling home with a little furry friend. And you're usually the hit of the plane, the hit of the airport, and you have this little furry baby with you. But that being said, dogs under 20 pounds cannot travel in cabin. So prior to the pandemic, a lot of them would be able to travel in cargo during only certain months of the year because it's not air conditioned. So during the hotter months, they can't travel, and that's a lot of the year in the Caribbean. So I would say probably May through November, they couldn't travel. Unfortunately, as COVID hit, a lot of the major airlines said no more dogs in cargo for whatever reason. So I think American Airlines right now is one of the only ones that does it. However, we do try to talk about doing large scale freedom flights, which have been done quite a bit before. We've actually never been involved in one. I hope to in the future, but that's when a private jet comes and they pick up a bunch of dogs and fly them out, a bunch of the larger dogs that are in the shelters down there, and fly them out. It is a very costly and a very work intensive feat, but definitely worth it. So that was kind of we have never been, like I said, directly involved in that, but that's something we hope to be involved in the future, where we fly a bunch of the larger dogs out on a private plane. And then that being said, also sometimes we have folks with private jets that come down, and if you have a private jet, you can bring a couple of dogs back. We actually had somebody that brought, I think, four or five dogs back in April, which was so amazing. Larger dogs from the shelter on a private jet. And then there's also Amerijet, which is an air-conditioned cargo airline. And we, as a matter of fact, brought our dog Polly up via Amerijet because we were volunteering at the shelter and fell in love with her and couldn't leave her. So that's another option as well. But it is much harder to bring the larger dogs up, unfortunately. So smaller dogs mostly are what we work with, but we do really want to look to expanding to helping the larger dogs as well.
It's definitely a thing because I mean, all really in any of the islands, the shelters are all overflowing. And in most cases, they're overflowing with dogs that are over that 20-pound threshold. So as many of the smaller guys or the puppies that make their way into the shelter that we can get out, we try to assist with that. But there's a huge need to get a lot of these larger dogs off the island as well, so they're not stuck in a shelter for years upon years.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and it's a problem now. All the shelters in the Caribbean are busting at the seams. They really are. So what we try to do, that's another component of it. We try to get the dogs out, the younger dogs, before they reach that 20-pound mark. So for instance, I have my partner down in the BVI, Tosh from Paw BVI. She said hi on the message thing here. We have an ongoing list, and she has them kind of lined up. Who's getting 19 pounds, who's 18, who's 17, and we get them out as they get up to that 20-pound mark. Because once they hit the 20-pound mark, it's very difficult to get them out. And like Kevin said, a lot of times they can be stuck on the island for years and years, if not the rest of their life in the shelter. So we really try to get them out before they're 20 pounds. And then still try to focus on getting the ones that are over 20 pounds out somehow, some way as well.
Gosh, it really creates a sense of urgency in getting dogs out.
Oh, yeah. But it's interesting. Folks always end up stepping up. Kevin's seen me in tears, panicking. Oh my God, how are we going to get this dog out? And somebody always usually steps up to foster or take the dog in or help the dog get out somehow. It's just, I have to say, it's an amazing community. It's not just Kevin and I. There's a big community that are dedicated to island dog rescue. A lot of folks I've met and have kind of corresponded with have visited the islands, and the same as Kevin and I have seen,
so they've seen it
the
firsthand.
need. And it is really a community of, I mean, we've connected with a lot of rescue folks, but also in particular, a lot of island dog rescue folks. It is a community of folks that really, really want to help both in the islands and here as well. So usually, I'll shoot out my message to all my island dog peeps. I'll say, I need help, guys. And somebody always ends up stepping up. It's really an amazing community. So it's great.
Nice. For how many dogs have you facilitated the finding of forever homes or foster that would lead to forever homes?
Yeah, I actually did the calculation right before we got on. Yeah, 368 we've helped with facilitating. Yeah, the
wow.
Either home rescues or direct adoptions. Yeah.
That's
So
a little over 3.
That's since mid 2020.
May 2020. Yep.
Impressive.
So a lot of times it's multiple per week, and I can't take all the credit because it's the island piece. People down the islands are helping, all my connections down the islands and the people up here are helping, and we're all working together to make this happen. So it's really a group effort. I always say it takes a village, and we have the best because we really do. People really do step up. It's really a group effort to save a life. So we do it with a lot of help for sure.
That is, though, a lot of players involved, but also an incredible amount of just communication on your part. Do you have a volunteer network? Are you doing this all yourself? Tell me about sort of your running of the organization and what that looks like day to day.
Yeah, so we do most of it ourselves. I do have a group of volunteers that I shoot messages out to every once in a while saying, "Hey, I need help. Can anybody help you? Can anybody help me?" And they've been fabulous and giving their 2 cents or trying to find fosters or trying to help out and find ideas. I have one volunteer in particular, Karen. She's been absolutely amazing. That she will take time off of work. She will go out to the airport at midnight, 1 o'clock in the morning, and she always says that she does it because her dog was right at that cusp, that 20-pound cusp of getting out. And so many people helped her to get her dog out. She adopted her dog from the British Virgin Islands as well. And she always tells me I do this because I think of my dog, Tessie. And I want to help a dog just like Tessie. So it's really touching. So I do have folks that are willing to help, but we are looking for more volunteers. We absolutely are. It gets overwhelming at times because, we both work full time and this is our second full-time job. So it does get overwhelming at times. So we're always looking for volunteers. If anybody is interested to help us out with plethora of tasks we have to do on a daily basis.
What's the best way, if someone's interested, what's the best way that they can get in touch with you?
Sure, they can shoot us a message on Facebook or on Instagram or email us. It's CaribbeanCanineConnection@gmail.com. So any of those ways. Yep, Facebook, Instagram, or emailing us would be absolutely amazing because we always need more help, that's for sure.
What's been the hardest part about turning this passion project into an organization?
It's just very time consuming, very, very time consuming. There's a lot that goes into it. And it can be very stressful at times. I'm not gonna lie, I've been hysterical crying over CCC more times than I would like to admit. But I always, within 24 hours, I see something miraculous happen and I see a life saved. And I always tell Kevin, "Oh, sorry, I was crying yesterday because this is just amazing." It's hard and it's difficult at times, not only with the time that goes into it. Actually, my parents were up visiting earlier and I felt bad I wasn't even looking at them the whole time because I was like, this on my phone. It's a constant thing. And there is a sense of urgency a lot. But the fact that you're saving a life, it just makes it all worthwhile. So I would say the time it takes, but also, seeing what we see. We see a lot of difficult things. We see a lot of abused dogs, a lot of neglected dogs. And it's very, very difficult to see that day in and day out. And it's hard. People say you have to shut it out and let it go, and you can't. I see a dog that's been abused or neglected, and I keep checking up on it to see if it's okay. But I would say that's the most difficult part is both the time and the stress level, but also all the stuff that we see and are exposed to.
It's kind of like that reality. You want to think you're helping them all, but you really can't help all of the dogs, unfortunately. But it is rewarding to see, the ones that you are managing to help.
Yeah. It absolutely. We try to help them all though. I try. But it's so rewarding when I see people have been so fantastic about sending pictures of I usually have a communications group, whether it's via Facebook Messenger or WhatsApp or Instagram Messenger, of our Freedom Flight Day, and it's all the people that are involved, the rescue down in the islands, the transporter, the puppy pal escort, whoever's dropping off at the airport, who's ever picking up at the airport. I have a communications group with everybody, and we all send pictures and updates to each other the whole day. And it's just so exciting and rewarding to see their little freedom flight and their little face looking out of the plane window and their tail wagging when they get off the plane. And just, we know from being in the Caribbean and being exposed to the stuff that goes on down there, and then seeing that little wagging tail get off the plane, that their life was saved. It really, truly was. And that makes it all worthwhile.
That's such a beautiful way to bring lightness to this situation for everybody else involved. I know, from reading, that the animal rescue community and the animal rescue field is just highest burnout, highest morbid, highest suicide rates. It's a tough area because, as you were saying, what you see, there's just so much suffering. So I love that you put together these little communication groups, and so that everybody gets to celebrate the success and the victories for the dogs that you are saving.
Absolutely. We actually have a private Facebook group too for anyone who's adopted from us, fostered for us, been an escort for us, or just been a helper in general. I also have a lot of great people that will just pick dogs up at the airport, even if they can't foster. I have a wonderful fellow named Brian. He's always willing to go to the airport and drive hours just to drop a dog off because he knows that's a big part of saving their life. There's little things that people do that maybe don't get recognized as much, but they're so important, because if I didn't have that person to pick up at the airport at 10 o'clock at night and drive it 2 hours to the foster, the dog wouldn't be able to go. So there's so many little things that are just so helpful. And we have this Facebook group that's just such a great community of everyone that puts their hand in to help. And it really does take a village to save a life.
That's what, when Allison refers to the village, that's really exactly where it comes into play. I mean, we can do a good portion of a lot of the behind the scenes things, but the physical, getting a dog from point A to point B, obviously we can't do all that. We would never be able to do anything else like in day to day.
Wow. What's the best way for somebody watching who can't physically transport a dog and isn't in a position to take one home? What's the best way that people can support your work and you and what you're doing?
I would say definitely following our page and sharing. I have dogs that I have one dog in particular. His name is Wilson. He's been in foster for a year now. He had some behavioral issues because he was severely abused and neglected in the islands, and he's just looking for a forever home. And sometimes I just need folks to share and promote and tell their friends and tell their family, and go to dog facilities and say, hey, can anybody help? Does anybody have ideas? So if somebody can't transport or foster or volunteer, sharing and spreading the word is just amazing. And even spreading the word, if their neighbors go in the Caribbean, say, hey, reach out to these people and just bring your dog back with you on your way home. Sharing and spreading the word would be absolutely amazing.
Thank you. Thank you so much for taking the time to share more about what you do. And thank you for doing what you're doing. And as somebody who runs social media for an organization, just that piece alone is a lot of work. And your online presence is so positive and inspiring. I want to look at all the images and share them. And I can appreciate how much work goes into just that one piece of what you're doing. And how much of a difference that it makes, for the dogs and for the people. So
absolutely.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you. And thank you guys for everything you've done for us. I mean, it's just been amazing, you helping us to get our 501c3. That was just incredible, and really kind of gave us a breath of fresh air. Like, wow, we're legit now, and this is awesome. So we appreciate you too. And this is our dog Polly that was recently rescued. Back in June, she came to us. Yep. So she's heartworm positive, so we're getting her treated right now. We're going to get her all better. And, she was skin and bones when we met her, and now she's the happiest dog ever. So it's very rewarding, that's for sure.
That's awesome. Well, thank you so much. I look forward to seeing all of the hundreds of dogs that you facilitate in the future.
And thank you so much, Jacqueline. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you for the opportunity.